Right, so I made a rather brief introduction to this game. Rogue system made by pretty much by only Michael Giuliano, the developer. And well, there were a few things I did forget to mention. Like I said, this is an early access game. I should get into one of these missions just so we don't have to bother with all the music. It is an early access game, and the plan which Giuliano has for the game is to release it in several separate modules. First off, there will be the core module, the Maverick module, I think he calls it. He's got these fancy names for the various modules, right? And the core module will contain the basic missions, and I think they will each of them will add another ship, another flyable ship to the game, I think. I like I said, I'm not quite sure about these details, and if in doubt, please check out the website of the Rogue System webpage. Now, in one of the modules, I believe Michael is planning on implementing an economic system so that you can travel from planet to planet and do some trading with various resources. It looks like there are some tidbits of information here and there which give some hints of a skeleton of such an implementation being in place, but there isn't anything like that at the moment anyway. Alright, so what I wanted to go through with you guys today is basic startup of the Firearc. Now, as it is, every time you start up the game, you get the Firearc, this ship. This ship called the Firearc is, you get it new and fresh. So it's not too complicated. So yeah, I'll just walk you through each of the steps one at a time. First off, we have to switch on the seat safe, or safety, so that we're strapped on and secure. And switch on instrument lights, switch off the cabin floodlights, and we are pretty much ready to go really with the procedure proper. First, we switch on the battery number 1, switch on the recharge function. Nothing will happen yet. As of now, we are connected to the thing which is in our center of our field of view is the Firearc, right? And this Wii station, which we are attached to, is a practice station. It is, God knows if it will be, well, not God, but Giuliano probably knows whether it will be implemented later in the game. It's well, it's basically there for us to have something to practice against. So this was the battery management system which we've switched on. Now we need to switch on the electrical control system and tell all the warning signals and such stuff that yes, we acknowledge all the faults. None of these faults have to be really you don't really have to care much about what they say. Not in this current implementation. Like I said, each time you restart these missions now, you get a new fresh Firearc, so you don't have to really worry about, I don't know, like battery leaks or whatever. Everything just works nominally. And what I switch on here now are the electrical buses. Now, an electrical bus is basically a big fat copper wire or something which conducts electricity really well. I am not an engineer, so I don't know too much about them, but in this version of the Firearc, when you switch, you have to switch on all these buses: the primary, the secondary, and the main bus. And you have to tell the system manually to give you balance between the two. If you do not ask the system to balance out the load between the primary and the secondary buses, it will overload and you'll have a fault, system bus 2 overload. So you have to actually manually tell it to balance that out for you, and it should disappear. Yep. So those little fun things you have to bear in mind when you start playing this button pressing simulator. Alright, now we switch on, well, whatever it was called again. I always fail to remember what it was called again. The reactant core manager and the fuel cells manager. I believe this is called the fuel cells manager. Now, the fuel cells have to be warmed up at when we wish to depart, and it takes a heck of a lot of time, so you have to do this pretty early. It's meant to be an alternative power source, an alternative to the main Wii reactor which we have installed on the ship. I've never actually had an opportunity to use this fuel cells, and so I can't really say much about how it works. Either way, it's time to switch on the cooling system. That's the number 1. Pressure the loop and switch on the pump. And like you can see, as long as many of these bars and meters are green, you know, you don't have to look too carefully at these wee thingies. You don't have to worry too much unless things start to take on a orange or a red tint. Then you can be pretty sure you have to worry about some fault or some possible oncoming fault. We deploy the first radiator and the second one, and like you can see, they're folded out. I should be cooling our system. We switch on the what's it I call it again, the let's see here, fuel cells manager, the reactor core manager. I can't remember what this one is called. The reactor core manager. I believe this is called the reactor core manager. This is basically the fuel tank to all the systems of the Firearc, amongst other things. It's also got one of the tanks, I believe, contains, well, it's supposed to contain oxygen, providing breathable air for the pilot. It provides fuel to the reactor core, no, the fuel cells manager, and we have to select the reactor source and the fuel source, and when it also provides fuel to the LENR, the low energy nuclear reactor installed on this ship. Just switched it on, but we'll start off checking in with the space station to which we're attached. We have to check in and we have to request departure before we can actually depart at all. Alright, can ask for departure clearance already. We can start enabling the Lenner, and the electromagnetic shield level should rise steadily. I believe it is, well, the full game, I believe it will be the wisest to switch on the Lenner first before you start preheating the reactor core, I think. Now that I think of it, that wouldn't make sense, because even if we preheat the core, we wouldn't have any nuclear reactions going on, such that we wouldn't need to worry about whether or not our electromagnetic shield shields us from harmful particles, high energy particles from the reactor. And we select a fuel source, number 4, the tank number 4 from the reactor core manager. And when we switch on the Lenner, you'll notice that the flow rate from tank number 4 will become non-zero. We'll ask nicely if we can switch on our Lenner. And we are cleared to switch it on. The fuel cutoff is switched off, and we enable the Lenner, and we have power running to all our systems. So we can cut off the maintenance power because we don't need it. We're self-sufficient now. And let's see here. Ah yes, like I said, we have a tiny non-zero flow rate. I don't know how much that counts as, but it's non-zero. Sufficient to know that. Alright, and this means that we're ready for departure. Alright, while we wait for further instructions from the control center, we'll switch on the screen. This is not glass, this is actually, well, it's supposed to be a screen through which you can see the outside world. Now we have to input these frequencies through which we can communicate with the space station. That's channel 3. For channel 4 we have a locator, which, well, should help us with the departure, so that we know where we are with relation to the space station. Notice, by the way, how this space station has got its... oh, actually, first time I've seen that. It had 2 of its radiators unfolded, and it folded it back in. That's the first time I've ever seen that. I guess that was because we departed and it didn't need to provide any coolant for us. Actually, I've been talking so much I haven't switched on our thrusters yet, so we have to do that through the MTS, the maneuvering thruster system. Select the fuel source, fuel cutoff, injector enable into the engine, I suppose. Switch on the superconductor and the helican coupler. The superconductors and helican couplers are parts of the engine which basically makes it possible for us to eject a gas at a high velocity, such that we gain thrust and can propel ourselves somewhere. We have to enable the nozzles so that we can get somewhere, and we can start to apply thrust to remove ourselves from the space station. Alright, we're almost done. Didn't take too much time to get away from the station. before we can properly ignite the nozzle exhaust, the exhaust gas, before we can ionize it, and so we can get some really nice proper thrust, we have to get 200 meters away from the space station, and we can ignite the thing. Oh, I've got to love that sound. Let's see here. Now we have to select a mode. Currently we're just in RCS only. That's reaction control system, which means that we can pretty much only really control the maneuvering system of the spacecraft. So we can't really use the big main engine like this. It's kind of dark now, so we can't really properly see, but it's in the back. This big ball here is where the cockpit is and where we're sitting, and this part here is the large main engine. And we have to actually tell the system manually that we want to be able to use it. Now it's kind of bothersome, especially if you're for example, are in combat and you end up rotating around like this. It's terribly annoying, right? Like, I imagine you guys would be, some of you guys might be getting motion sickness from this, but basically we have to switch on the NAS, the Navigations and Autopilot System, I believe that stands for. We allow the autopilot to control, we tell it to control yaw, the pitch and the roll, and voila, we stopped the whole vertigus, this bothersome movement for us automatically. Now that was pretty much all I wanted to show you. We're pretty much set to go and just fly wherever we want, like to the stars or whatever. And well, no, we wouldn't be doing that in this kind of ship. I am not sure. I'm like, in the lore of this for this game, the humans have found a way to create something similar to wormholes. It was discovered inadvertently, this whole technique of traveling from star system to star system using this exotic dark matter thingy. I can't remember. It was he pretty much invoked some fancy schmancy physics which no one probably understands, which you can just invoke that as like magic, and it just things just work. But I'm not sure if that will be actually possible to, if it's going to be possible for players to jump from star system to star system. But with the flux drive, it will be possible to travel from planet to planet, and from for example, we're in this orbiting around this moon, which orbits around this planet. It'll be easy. It'll be trivial to travel from moon to another moon, because this thrust, it provides quite a lot of thrust. Anyway, I should reserve that for another video. Thank you for watching.